There's a very important point, again, for the sake of those watching, that can be transformative, I hope. When people stop believing in God after pain and suffering, in large measure, and I totally understand it, I just want to make that clear, but in large measure, it is because the God they believed in was essentially the cosmic butler.
Yes, yes. Right.
He is there to give me and protect me, and if I wasn't given and not protected, he doesn't exist.
That's a perfect segue to the next temptation, because what happens is that the devil takes Jesus to the holy city and sets him on the highest point of the temple. If you're the Son of God, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, he will give his angels charge over thee to protect thee, and on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. But Jesus said to him, it is also written, thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. Christ is a master at using short, mysterious stories. They change the listener who takes them seriously.
The person that you do not think could ever be virtuous, well, let me show you, this is the person who is fulfilling the law and the prophets.
I don't believe in that promise. I'll just be honest at this point.
Then it hit me. I saw it.
This Jew is very frightened of a post-Christian society.
The power of love.
I don't want to be in a Hallmark card, I tell you.
We've got our work cut out for us, gentlemen. I sure hope we're up to the task. Well, it's the mirror opposite of this initial temptation in exactly the way you formulated it, because this is the second temptation people have with regards to the divine. It's like, protect me against the consequences of my life, right? Or violate the cosmic order itself to protect me against the privations and catastrophes of my life. And that could be twofold, right? It could be the arbitrary tragedy of life, why won't God step in? And it could also be the deserved catastrophe of life, which is, well, why won't God rescue me from the pit I threw myself in? It is the same cosmic butler idea, and I think you're correct when people's faith is shaken in the face of privation, is that they had their conceptualization of God wrong to begin with. And that's why those first two temptations make themselves manifest in that way. You don't get good things that way, and you don't protect yourself against bad things that way. And then just a response to the need idea, and tell me what you think about this, because I'm not sure if it's exactly the same thing that you were describing. I think the insistence in the Gospels in particular, although you see it already present in the Old Testament, is that even the way to most radically fulfill the basic needs, so-called basic needs, is to attend without hesitation to the higher needs. So, for example, if I want to ensure the provision of food for my family, if I'm a hunter in a hunter-gatherer community, the best way I can do that is not by ensuring I eat when I hunt, but by ensuring that when I hunt, I share, so that the next time I hunt and fail, food will be there. And so there's an idea, which I think is exactly right, that if we attend to the highest level of unity psychologically and communally, we set up a situation where the more sophisticated needs are met, but it's also by far the best way of ensuring that the basic needs are met. And so, see, I've always been leery of clinical theories that purport to describe a hierarchy of needs like Maslow, and that the higher order needs can't be addressed till the lower order needs are met. There's a kind of materialism that's in that.
Well, I wasn't. I was using,
I was
using from, and the point I was trying to make is it's not this way. In from, it's this way, right? It's not that the having mode is wrong or evil. You can get confusion the other way. And when I was growing up in the church, we had a phrase of people who were too heavenly minded to be any earthly good.
Right,
and we now call it spiritual bypassing, where people are neglecting their responsibilities in the having mode because they're all into the spirituality and the being. For me, it's about it's Merleau-Ponty, it's about getting the optimal grip between these and being able to flow between
That's subduing the world properly, I would say, in the sense that God calls Adam to do that, right? To put everything in its proper place, to give everything its proper name. And so, as a reincarnation of Adam in his proper form, Christ exemplifies the placing everything into its proper place, right? And that doesn't mean that, it doesn't exactly mean that things are lesser than. It means that everything exists in proper relationship to everything else.
Well, that's also an older meaning of logos, right? A ratio, the proper proportioning, right? Which doesn't mean everything, like it's like the proportioning of your perception that you're talking about. In order to really see, I have to put things in proportion. I have to foreground and background, right? Because if I just made everything a Gansfeld, one unified thing, seeing is impossible. I have to do the proportioning, or I can't actually navigate my way through the world.
Right.
And the word sacrifice, actually, I think is interesting precisely this respect, because it, I don't want to sound like Heidegger here, but there's an etymological dimension to it, in the making sacred.
Yes.
So we think of it in primarily the renunciation, but this sense of making sacred as the key to the sacrifice, I think that fits in with your idea of a
That's the upward striving element.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think there's something also that's much more concrete in this, which is a protection against the fact that we don't always know what we want. It's an orientation towards the things that are less obvious. I mean, you think about this with the proliferation of pornography. It's like if you give people everything they think they want in one moment, where does it lead? If we have this there's so many ways that I think we're seeing that luxury and convenience are the death of us, and moment to moment. And so these three temptations are quite concrete about things that we would immediately believe that we want in our grasp, and it's giving us an antidote to all of them.
That's important. Greg, that's really important, because we have a purely negative notion of freedom, and that's part of what's going in the Frommian critique, where it's a removal of constraint and the maximization of choice. And this is the Benjamin thing. Don't just tell me what you're free from, tell me what you're free to. And I see these temptations as saying, you're free from hunger. Oh, no, but what am I free to? Right? If I eat, I'm free from hunger, but I want to be free to the kingdom of God.
That's the freedom that comes along with voluntary responsibility, I would say, rather than right.
Well, I'm interested in getting clear about the freedom that Jesus is offering.
It's that free, yeah.
Well, it's the highest low too. Like, we're talking about how he does all these things, so he does produce endless loaves. He is raised to the highest point on a cross with instead of a crown that he oversees and rules the world, right?
And
but
he
it's in the
delegates
worst
power
way.
to all his disciples in the last few verses of Matthew.
And he throws himself down in the most horrific fashion and is caught by God only after he withstands every horror imaginable.
That's why it's exceptionally important, I think, that he's on top of the temple.
That's right.
Not just any old building, but he's at the parapet of the temple. He's at the economic, political, religious, cultural center of the whole operation. He's at the parapet of the temple.
Yeah.
It's a kind of temptation, I think, toward narcissistic ego inflation. I mean, look at me. Think of wealth, pleasure, power, honor. Aquinas has the four things that we're tempted by. With the, make these loaves into bread. Well, there's pleasure in its different forms. This one, I think, is honor. It's like an ego that's just drunk on honor, wants to be at the tip top of the highest building, most important building. And then to your point, I think exactly right. It's always the reversal. He does get there in a way. He is raised up, and when he's raised up, he'll draw all people to himself.